Hey guys, Eli with Audantic here. I've been asked by a number of our clients, hey, what's going on out in the marketplace today? What are you guys seeing? And to that end, look, we're a data company. And so we know that it is imperative that you operators that are out in the field have actionable intelligence. So what's one of the biggest challenges that folks are bringing to us on a daily basis? Well, we know it's not necessarily on the acquisition side. We know it's going to be a disposition game of really figuring out ways to unload those properties, especially now that hard money has disappeared overnight. A lot of folks with buyers have just kind of disappeared. So what other options are out there? So I wanted to have this call today, and I specifically invited Mark on this call for a couple of reasons. First of all, Mark is smart as hell. I've known Mark for over a year, and Mark is currently with Roofstock, but before that, he cut his teeth and was in the trenches at Fannie doing dispo. Not only that, he's been on the auction side of the business here. So the guy's been in the game. Mark, how long have you been in the game for?
19 years.
19 years. Look at that. And he's still a survivor here. So part of the reason that I wanted to have Mark here is let's talk about what's happening out there, and let's see if there's some interesting ways to help operators, especially in the state that we're in. You know, there's peacetime mentality and there's wartime mentality. And when you're in a wartime mentality like the market we're in today, we got to bring in the best ideas. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with Mark. So Mark, if you just want to tell kind of like our clients here a little bit about yourself and your background, and maybe just kind of share a little bit about Roofstock as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity, Eli. My background's really a diverse, unique background, but it really started off in distressed real estate. So I was going around the country, going to tax lien auctions and driving for dollars, going by street in the cities like Baltimore and New Orleans and areas where you would wonder what the hell was I doing there? But I got to learn about different cities, different markets, different economic drivers around the country. And it gave me the perspective of really a national real estate perspective rather than just city by city or just working in one area. But I got to see the whole country, and then I got to understand, again, what those drivers were city by city, how values were affected and so forth. But shortly after that, I worked at Fannie Mae during the recession. So from 2008 to 2012.
Fun times, right?
yeah. Like the times that we're kind of faced back with again. I was working in the auction group, and most of these major institutions, they would never think about auction during the good days, but back then they had to put together the team again. And so they knew I had an auction background. So they pulled me in, and I was selling about 18,000 properties a year that were the properties that would not sell through more of a traditional realtor route. So I got to see properties that didn't sell or would sell in Detroit for $100 a pop. I mean, it was just crazy what I saw. Shortly after that, I went to a company called Zome, owned by NationStar Mortgage. So they're an online auction platform, and I became their chief auctioneer. So I was licensed as an auctioneer in 28 states and was basically the decision maker making.
You throw some speed out?
What's that?
You throw some speed out? You still got it?
Still got it. I can pull it out when I need to. But being an online auctioneer was a little different. So you didn't have to stay tuned up and keep that voice primed. But what I did see was, again, another like 15,000 properties being sold a year. And I got to see, again, the market as a whole and see the recovery, so post-recession. But this was the countrywide portfolio that Bank of America had sold off. So, I mean, this was some nasty stuff. But really, this gave me an opportunity to then become a broker, agent, auctioneer on my own. Recently, about a year and 3 months ago, I joined Roofstock, because my colleague, who's now the chief marketing officer, is running marketing at Roofstock, and he asked me to come join him and apply some of this transactional knowledge and almost look at the entire perspective like an economist and say, hey, what markets do we need to go to create supply as well as demand, and how do we pull that together to have simple transactions? So turning to Eli and Audantic was a big step for us, just so we could see, again, from that higher level perspective, but be able to drill down into the data city by city and really understand the local markets.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, Mark, talk to us a little about, specific to Roofstock. I mean, what are some misconceptions that are out there right now? I mean, it's funny, when hard money pulled out, and the iBuyer shut down, I think you guys kind of got lumped in with that group right there. And so I think part of the thing is, if you want to have actionable intelligence, you got to know what's actually happening out there and who does what. So, I mean, you want to just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Roofstock is a marketplace for single family rental properties to be bought and sold. So, we are actually a brokerage representing sellers on the listing side. So, our focus is getting properties sold. We've been lumped in that same group as like iBuyers, like what you talked about. And we're really not focused on the acquisition. We're focused on bringing quality buyers to sellers. And how do we do that? We do a lot of education, almost like bigger pocket style, where a lot of our buyers coming in are buying their first 10 properties. And that's why they're paying retail price, because Roofstock is looking for sellers who have quality rental properties. And we curate our marketplace. So when a buyer comes in to buy their first 10, they feel really comfortable that they have third-party inspection and rent roll, lease, ledger, Section 8 docs, HOA docs, you name it. But it's because they may not be the most savvy investors, but they want to get into the space, but they just don't have a trusted way to do it. So I tell you that because that's really where a lot of the value is that we have. We have a very consistent buyer marketplace where these buyers are coming from the East and West Coast and even internationally. So they have deep pockets. They just don't have a consistent way to due diligence and get into these properties. But with a free third-party inspection and all these other documents, and the fact that we've curated it and made sure values are good, they're transacting really easily. So it's where our sellers are just loving what we're doing, but it keeps us out of the transaction. It keeps us as a broker versus being a buyer or a seller.
Okay. So one of the things that really just kind of, in talking with Mark, that blew my mind, we know a number of the same big time operators out there. And Mark started sharing a case study, and I'm like, you know what? This is too good. We got to make a video about this, because people are always saying, hey, what are the heavy hitters doing out there? And part of the reason I want you to make sure you listen to this and follow it through to the end is that at the end of this video here, Mark is going to be providing a playbook for you at no cost. This is just more of that actionable intelligence that you can take it and you can implement it, and it's going to be strategic to ultimately not just help you survive in this market, but ultimately thrive in that market. Now, Mark, one of the things that I frequently hear, and you and I both know this, and you'd shared this with me, was that, there are still a lot of out-of-state buyers that are being active right now. You shared that with me. We know this because, again, we're a data company. We see everything that is going on in SFR. But one of the inherent challenges that I've heard from operators is that, man, how do you deal with some of these out-of-state people? Yeah, that's great, they're there, but again, is this going to be a big headache? How do I deal with this? So you actually have a case study on this with some of these operators on what they did. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the typical conversation that I get? Sellers call me and say, Mark, I need help. I need help selling these properties, but I'm not in a rush. I want to sell for the right price. I just don't want to deal with out-of-state buyers or investors that maybe don't understand the market economics from a macro or even micro perspective. So there's a lot of questions that have to get answered. And I really want to focus on acquisition and the rehabilitation or renovation, and not focus on the merchandising, marketing, and having to put properties on MLS and deal with showings. So how can you help me? So that's where I typically get those questions from a seller. But the way we have been super successful is that we focus on what we're good at, and that is valuing properties, then getting it merchandised, and then sold. So our top operators typically are doing between 100 to 200 deals in a year. And a lot of them turn to us and say, Mark, listen, I can sell a handful of these on my own, but I want to test you out. So they'll come to us, they'll test us out, and then they'll see that they have to take way less phone calls. They don't have to do any of the marketing or have their their marketing person putting properties up on MLS and, you know, changing statuses. They just say, you do it and you take care of it. But expose it to an international or national clientele and bring me offers from East Coast, West Coast, or wherever. Bring me the deepest pockets you have. So really where the success comes in is that a typical seller will say, hey, I have 20 properties. Tell me what the value is. Come back to me and show me from both a sale comparison value as well as the income approach. And then you tell me what you think you can sell it for. So it's all data driven. And so we'll give them the data back and say, here's how we could sell it. And typically it's right in line with the right pricing, because typically we're in the Midwest and Southeast states right now, you know, areas like California and Washington State, Eli, where it's just the cap rates don't make sense for an investor really looking for short-term returns. So our investors have these portfolios, we'll bring them to us, we'll value them, and then we'll get into about a 90-day listing agreement. And that keeps the time period short. So we're able to go and pay for a third-party inspection out of our pocket, no cost to the seller, get all the due diligence, leases, ledgers, and so forth. So we are combing through that data to make sure this is going to be a quality rental property investment for someone else. Then we bring it to market after doing that. It's almost like we're doing all the due diligence for the buyers, and then we're playing T-ball, right? They just have to come in, see the values, look at our analytics, look at all of our rental data, and say, this makes sense. There's low deferred maintenance. There's good rental income. This tenant is on time paying, etc. I'm ready to make this decision. Then we have a whole buyer advisor group that helps with the financing, helps, you know, point them in these investors in the direction of insurance, or what does Section 8 mean? So even though they may be newer investors, they have us to be able to fill in the dots. So long story short, we are able to help sellers that have a decent portfolio, number one, or two are fix and flippers. And the fix and flip guys, the ones that can identify, acquire properties, fix them up, they don't have to go towards owner occupants and do full quartz countertops. They may say, let's cut it short. Let's do a basic rehab, but let's get a tenant in there, maybe Section 8, that's going to have consistent income. And let's sell this for the income approach rather than just to owner occupant that's based on, you know, psychology and emotions and all those things. Let's sell it to guys that want to exit the stock market and get into an alternative asset class like what we do at Roofstock. So really the bread and butter case study is always about fix and flip guys that want to do turnkey. I have programs set up where they can come in, have the exact playbook, know exactly what steps to take and how to value those properties to get them sold. That's where we're finding a lot of success. The guys with portfolios, hey, we'll always help them, but it's the guys that are like the super users or like Airbnb super hosts. I want the repeat customers coming back and just manufacturing these deals, building history with Roofstock where we can build a relationship, and then use data like from Audantic where they can find the right properties. Then they can acquire or run the values past us even before they do the acquisition, but they can know that they have an exit strategy in place before they've even acquired the property. But really it's data driven, just like, you know, what you do every day, Eli, and that's what we do on this side too.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sharing that, Mark. I think the key here is that there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines wondering what to do. Is anything actually moving? There's this era of uncertainty. So what are you seeing? Is stuff moving?
Absolutely. So we are experiencing a little bit of a pullback, but hey, if I said we're in a perfect place right now, you would be like, that guy's full of it, right?
Yeah.
I want to be honest, and you know what we're seeing is that the value point has actually dropped a little bit. So markets where the value range is like between 60 to 100,000, that's the sweet spot right now, because investors that are buying into these properties can stay cash rich, right? They're not having to put a huge down payment down. They like turnkey properties because there's low deferred maintenance. So turnkey on our site, we define as under $500 in CapEx or deferred maintenance. And so these buyers know that they're buying into quality cash flow, no deferred maintenance or low deferred maintenance. And then for one of these programs, which is called Roofstock Turnkey, we're asking our sellers to pay for even a third party like home warranty. And what that does is that gives them the buyers an even higher confidence level that they can get into these things and build their cash reserves in case they need that for a rainy day, right? We don't know if tenants are going to pay. I mean, May's coming upon us. April was a good month, but now we're finding that people are having to stand in, these food lines or car lines, I think you see on TV, and we don't know what's going to happen in May. So investors that are still in the space, they're going to want to buy into something that's safer. Section 8 housing, it's a great investment, and really that's what they're dialing in on. But overall, our demand is healthy. It's just a lower price point. But overall, we're still seeing product move. It just may be on the market, 10 days longer than usual. Our average before COVID-19 was 15 days on average. Our average sale price was 99% of a retail list price. So we're still seeing strong values, just a little bit longer days on market. But I think we're going to see healthy buying over the next 3-6 months. And then, we'll see where we are in the market at that point. But all we can do is kind of live day by day right now and see where the Fed and everybody else is taking the market. And we're along for the ride. We're only in control of so many things. So knowing that Roofstock is a consistent exit strategy with income supporting values rather than emotion, that's going to be the most critical factor for sellers today, to know that that's all we do here.
Certainly. And I think just having that confidence is critical. And again, the whole idea of wanting to do this call, as well as many others that I'm going to start to put out into our group, into our larger audience, is we got to look at the game different now. We got to look at different alternate options that maybe we hadn't considered in the past. And I think what Mark and Roofstock are doing is awesome. And that's not a sales plug or anything like that. The reason I say that is because we have a number of mutual clients that have found value here. And when you are in a market like we are today, you have to look to find where that opportunity is. And I think that this is a very viable resource to help operators out where we're at today, but where we're going in the future here as well. So Mark, for people that are watching this and have questions, what are maybe one or two key takeaways that you want them to walk away with here?
Sure. I'll speak high level and then I'll get to the details. High level is study market vulnerability. And I think if you can find the right data, which I have some really good resources that I could provide you as well, but understand what jobs are most vulnerable as you really have more of an investment strategy in that market. Some investors are buying in different markets, but focus on how many jobs may be at risk and really understand what's going on in the long haul. Because I don't want to say this is just for everybody. I mean, that would be a mistake if I ever said that. But there's certain markets I'm seeing a lot in the Southeast and Midwest where you have more diversity. You don't have Las Vegas where the service industry is it, right? Or Orlando, service, tourism, conventions, those kinds of things. So you're going to see some big hits in certain markets, but also focus on the markets where there's diversification. Birmingham, Alabama is a great example. Birmingham used to be very finance sector oriented. Now it's completely diverse. It's a thriving tech hub where they have a lot of different types of companies that are there that allow people to work from home, right? Where you don't have to be essential at the job. Those are the kind of markets that I think I'm going to be more bullish on and focused on. So from a macro perspective, that's good to know. Micro, get down to the data and understand how others think. It's not just about you, but it's about, hey, what do investors think about? What's important to them? What are the returns? And I have that outlined in my playbook. So without going into a full dissertation, I think I can provide that to you. Maybe if you want me to give people my info, or you tell me, Eli, what's the best way to connect with people, I'd be happy to hand that over, give people more of an idea about what those next steps would be. So happy to open that discussion up and give a phone number to text, or you can provide that information as well.
Yeah, certainly. So you know, for those of you guys, you know, so we'd provide you some value walking away with this at the end of the video. Mark kind enough to provide that specific playbook to, again, give you some of that deeper insight and provide more options. Maybe it leads to a deeper conversation, but again, the more that you know and the more options that you have at your disposal, the better off that you're going to be. So again, if you have questions on that, simply hit me up. Mark, again, it's your call if you want to put your info. Again, we're going to be sharing this video with a lot of people, so I don't know, not that anyone would necessarily spam you, but again, that's your call. You're more than happy to put that out there. If not, reach out to me personally. I will connect you with Mark. But again, your call, Mark. What do you want to do for the folks here to hook them up?
Now, hit up Eli and would love the introduction. I think there will be more context provided that way, because if you're a client of Audantic, I have a high level of respect for the way that you're looking at the data and you're not, again, working off emotion. So yeah, Eli, we'll connect on that. So looking forward to seeing any connections or ways I can provide that playbook.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for checking this out. Thank you to Mark and Roofstock for being willing to share some information here. Again, it's unique times, but we will get through this. Not only will we survive, but we will ultimately thrive and come out stronger. And in the words of David Goggins, stay hard out there, folks.